Testing. All right, what is going on, everyone? Welcome back to the fourth episode of the podcast on the channel. Still the podcast with no name. Now, you may have been thinking maybe I disappeared off the face of the earth because I uploaded the first three podcasts every other day consecutively, and it's been, I think, 4 days since the previous one, because it's currently the 26th of March today, and the last one was uploaded on the 22nd of March, but I've been kind of busy with not working. So essentially, starting from yesterday, I've been back at work. If you guys don't know, obviously I'm a full-time YouTuber, and a couple of weeks ago, I recorded a bunch of videos. I think for one of the weeks, I recorded 18 videos to essentially give me some time off. And then the game that I primarily cover, Rocket League, had a couple of updates, so I still had to keep working through the updates, and it all of a sudden meant I had videos planned and ready for a couple of weeks in advance. So for the last week, I've actually been off of YouTube. I've still been uploading daily because of all the pre-recording that I did, but I actually haven't had any work to do up until yesterday when a new update came in and I had more content to make. So I didn't really have time to make a podcast, because normally when I made the previous podcast, it was in between different amounts of my main work on my main channel, because I'm at the desk, so I think, why not record a podcast? Similarly, right now, one of my videos for today is uploading, and one of my videos for a couple of days' time is rendering. And one of the good things about recording a podcast is, as long as my PC doesn't absolutely just get destroyed by this, I should be able to record a podcast whilst rendering. In terms of, PC usage, I think that should be okay. And obviously, I don't need any internet to record a podcast, so I can upload no problems. So that's kind of the way it's been going. But I do want to keep doing these because I've seen a lot of really kind comments. I did mention briefly in a video on my main channel that I am doing these videos now, and I've got about 100 more subscribers joining the channel since then. So if you are from there, please do drop a like, and wherever you're watching from, listening from, or whatever you're doing, please do drop a comment, because I'm aware that times have changed recently, because since my last podcast, the UK has essentially gone onto full lockdown, potentially. Well, no, not potentially, but luckily that doesn't mean that we can't go outside at all. As I'm not someone who is in the at-risk category, I'm not limited to staying inside for the 12-week period. I can still go out every single day to exercise, and also as the lowest risk member in my household, that does mean that I could potentially be the one going to the shops to get the food and everything like that. So I can still go outside. I've been picking up running and everything like that. And obviously, coronavirus, I was going to not say it, but let's just say it. It's been very much on everyone's mind lately. So I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the things maybe you can do during this quarantine isolation period, and some of the things I've been doing, and just have a little chat, just how the podcast usually tends to be. And very sad news as well, of course. I won't dwell on this too long, but a few days ago, I was out walking. I think it might have been the day of the lockdown, like before the announcement came, and I said how basically young people aren't taking this seriously. And I said to my brother and my dad, while we were on our allowed walk as members of the same household, I said to them that sadly, I think it's going to take someone young with no underlying health conditions to die for the message to really hit home with a lot of young people. And then the next day, sadly, again, as I said, it was announced that a young lady aged 21 with no previous health conditions, that's what was in the story at least, we don't know, obviously she had anything, but no underlying health conditions, a healthy young lady lost her life due to the coronavirus. The day after I said that, sadly, I felt like for some people that's what would be necessary. And I think the country is starting to actually take things seriously. And although people are going out for their exercise and are going out for walks and are trying to go out as much as possible, they are finally keeping their distance. And it's similar to how I mentioned in my Habits podcast, the previous one, about how, setting the bar really, really high and then accepting if you fall to here, shooting for here, as opposed to just shooting for here and achieving lesser results than here. It's almost as if our country had to impose strict measures up here just for us to obey the initial measures down here that a lot of people weren't listening to over the previous weekend. And yeah, so that's kind of where my head's at. Isolation. I think the fact that we've been given a time scale that this will be reviewed in 3 weeks makes it a little bit easier to cope with, because everyone's thinking, right, if we fully follow the rules and keep our distance and, follow the rules, then maybe in 3 weeks things will be relaxed and we'll start to do things a little bit more. But I'm just hoping, because there are a lot of dumb people. Like, in a population, there's going to be people that are a little bit more switched on and people that maybe aren't, okay? And I just hope that people don't see over the next week the amount of cases continuing to exponentially rise and the deaths continuing to exponentially rise and think, well, this lockdown isn't working, because there's essentially a 2-week period for this virus to kind of take its effect, whether that's to show symptoms or for more severely ill patients to die. And I'm hoping people don't, after a week of lockdown, see the cases going up and thinking, well, it's not working, let's just bun it off and break the rules. I hope they don't see that, and I hope they're smart about it, and we at least see through this 3-week period to see what should be the curve flattening, as the saying goes. And so yes, I'm here, recording podcast number 4, getting a little bit better at recording these and taking it easy on the throat. Let's have a sip of water, prevention sort of sip. But yes, I'm back recording, back at work. Recorded 2 videos last night. I've recorded 2 videos today, and they're rendering and uploading. And I am now recording a podcast because, as I said, I do want to keep doing these. And I do want to do other videos as well on this channel, not just podcasts, whether that's a vlog, maybe that could be quite interesting. Or I do at some point want to do a weight loss transformation video. And recently I did just complete my 30th consecutive day at the gym / exercising. The last couple of days were long runs because the gym was closed. And I wanted to maybe make a video explaining my 30 days without a break, without a rest situation. But I also wanted to do, as I said, a weight loss transformation video where I perhaps go a bit more in depth as to how I've done it, because I've touched on little things here and there in different videos and in posts. I also have my fitness Instagram, but I've not made a one-stop place where someone can go and get all the answers, because believe it or not, that's probably what I get messaged most about, is my fitness journey, how I've done it, the diet I stick to, the workouts that I do, and everything like that. And I am slowly adapting. The last day or so really is basically since I started work, because I work so much better with the routine, but the last day or so is where I've been feeling better in myself and how I feel like I will be able to cope quite well with this isolation situation. The first couple of days I was really struggling without the gym, because as I said, I'd gone to the gym, I'm not lying, every single day, no breaks, just because I enjoy everything about the gym, the social aspect as well, the journey I take to go there. It's like a 50-minute walk. I love walking. Obviously, my step count has been limited due to the amount we're allowed to do. But yeah, I really, really, really love the gym. And I was quite sad, particularly over the weekend, with the thought of, not knowing when I was going to go back. I think that is the hardest thing for everyone in this situation. It's the uncertainty of how long things are going to take. I think it's refreshing to know that the epicenter, the original location of the virus, Wuhan, they're starting to lift some restrictions because they are getting through it. But I do think the Chinese take a much stricter, or have taken a much stricter approach than places in Europe. South America also taking very strict measures. India, very, very strict measures, and it's going to be very, very tough for such a big population to adhere to that. But they're going to do the best, because if it starts spreading through India, that could be very, very tragic. But over the last couple of days, I've got back into it. I've been running every single day, actually, and I have done a few home workouts. Not a lot, but I did my first proper home workout yesterday. It was about half an hour, 40 minutes, and I felt really, really good about it. And yeah, so basically I thought what I could do, I could have a little look at, I just decided to take the first article and have a look and see what it suggests that we do during isolation. And I thought maybe if there's anything that encourages me to talk about as to how I've been coping, then we could do that, just have a little chat. I had comments on the previous video, one of them from my friend Zach, saying, he does all kinds of things while listening to podcasts, tidying, maybe you could do gardening. I've been doing gardening for the last few days because the weather's been glorious. It's great to chuck a podcast on in the background. I'll probably chuck this podcast of me in the background of me doing something because I absolutely love it. But anyway, this was the first thing that I found. It's things to do at home when you're stuck indoors in coronavirus self-isolation. And this was the first article that came up on Google from Tech Radar. So, list number 1. I'm not going to read all of it. It says, become a master chef with a meal kit service. And then there's an advert. So I'm guessing this article is trying to drive some sort of affiliate sales. So, how has my food changed throughout? Basically, the last few days, up until yesterday. Yesterday I stuck to my, not diet, but then again, I think the problem with the word diet is it has connotations of restriction and not being allowed to do certain things. But everyone is on a diet, because a diet simply describes what you eat. But the connotations nowadays of the word diet is restricting yourself or eating only specific things with a goal in mind. Whereas in actual fact, everyone has a diet. Even if you don't pay attention to your food, you don't lose or gain weight, you're just in a good place and you can intuitively eat your life away, you're still on a diet of sorts. So my diet, yesterday I did well. I had a decent amount of calories, enough to keep me energized, but not too much to send me off the rails, because I weigh myself every day to keep an eye on things like this. I take into account fluctuations. I know when I chug one of these in the morning, I'll weigh 2 to 2.5 pounds heavier once I step on the scale after drinking one of those. So I can account for and quite accurately predict how much my body weight fluctuates, anywhere up to about 8 pounds in a day, sometimes 10 pounds in a day if I eat a lot from a dehydrated state when I weigh very, very, much lighter. But I saw just the average weight of mine creep up by just a couple of pounds. I thought, yeah, that does make sense. It ties in with the extra amounts I've been eating, the extra amounts I've been snacking, because with quarantine does come boredom. And with boredom comes eating. I think the last couple of days, once I want to eat for being bored, I will eat cucumber, because it satisfies my need to be eating, to chew, to taste, and to swallow, but it's very, very low calories. I think yesterday I had 1.5 cucumbers, and cucumbers are big things, and obviously I love it to keep me hydrated, but I think it's about 45 calories per cucumber, and it's a lot of chewing, whereas if I munch something else, it could be a lot worse. But yeah, my brother's been back from uni for a week. He brought back so much food with him, and I'll ask him, like, hey, can I have some of those biscuits? And he's like, yeah, sure. And sometimes people are like, I've got chocolate, who wants some? And I'm like, you know what? Life is too short. And luckily, I still feel good about myself. I had a bit of a dodgy period thinking about not going to the gym and eating more. Those two just kind of freaked me out a bit, because I do want to stay on top of my health. I don't want to come out of this isolation and quarantine in a much worse place than when I went in. But the last couple of days, I've figured that out better. So, take this time to treat yourself, but don't go over the top. Just keep an eye on yourself. I think that's the best thing we can do, because sometimes a bit of good, tasty, bad food can be good for the brain. I think it's good for the soul. Number 2, play either Doom Eternal or Animal Crossing. Very specific, 2 new games that came out recently. This one's very exciting because I just got an alert for this. My brother knows this, so I'll say it in this, but it's not to do with these 2 specific games. I think Animal Crossing, I asked my friend, I was like, why is everyone so hyped about it? And I've never played it, and she said she was hyped because she played it on her DS as a kid, so it's kind of, there's a bit of nostalgia there. I thought, okay, that makes sense. I don't have that element of nostalgia, and I've never played the game. I don't really understand it. However, speaking of nostalgia, I thought to myself, you know what? Everyone's hopping on this Switch trend, and I've got my own Nintendo Switch. I've had it for a little while, at least a year and a half maybe. I got it a while ago, and I certainly haven't taken advantage of it. I used to play a lot of Mario games back when I lived in my old apartment, Mario Party, Mario Kart, a lot of that on the TV because I connected it there, but I haven't taken advantage of the handheld Switch experience. And I felt like getting myself a Pokemon game. A while ago I was going to treat myself to the new Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu game when it came out. And I didn't. I just never got round to it because I was playing a lot more Fortnite at the time, and I'd never got round to doing it. And I thought to myself, let's have a little look. And I was thinking, do I get the Let's Go Pikachu, which is essentially like a remastered version of the OG Yellow Kanto version, which is the first game I ever got as a child when I was about 6 years old, when I first got my Game Boy Color, and I loved that game? Or do I get the Pokemon Shield or Sword game, which is the newer one with a new region, new Pokemon? I don't know anything about it. And I thought to myself, I'm going to go for the original, the Let's Go Pikachu, because I did get a lot of the new Pokemon games. I completed, at least the storyline of Pokemon Black and maybe Pokemon X as well. But then when Black 2 came about, I got about 6 badges in and just wasn't as into it anymore. This was on my 2DS. Back in the day, a few years ago. So I thought, yeah, I'm not going to force myself to get into a Pokemon game that's so entirely new that I might be overwhelmed and not have that nostalgia effect to keep me going. And Let's Go Pikachu is going to be perfect because whilst it's the game and story that I know, the graphics and mechanics are going to be so different. So that has actually just arrived today. So I could, after this, hop on Let's Go Pikachu, but I won't. I'm going to wait until tomorrow because my brother and we're twins, so we share a birthday, of course, and that's Monday the 30th of March. And I wasn't sure. I was initially just going to give him a bunch of money, primarily to actually help him through his last term of uni because he's a bit strapped for cash. And then, obviously, everything's happened, and he's not even sure when he's going to go back to uni, if he's going to go back to uni. I thought, you know, it'd be great. Let's give him something to do. He's never had, you know, like a console, like a PlayStation or an Xbox. He's not a big console guy. He's had I think I bought him a 2DS at some point. I think a while ago. He's had a DS, of course, and he loves Pokemon. So I've bought him a Switch, the only Switch I could find in stock anywhere. I wanted to get him the red and blue one with the Joy-Cons like I have. I then looked at the turquoise, the grey, they were all out. But luckily, from Argos, I've managed to get him a yellow Nintendo Switch. And also, it just so happens that the Let's Go Eevee version, which is the second version, there's the Let's Go Pikachu, which is what I'm getting. He's going to get the Eevee, and the thing about that is the main thing is that there's Pokemon that are exclusive to the Pikachu and Eevee games, but if we have both, we can trade between the two. And if we want to complete a Pokedex, for instance, which I have actually done, I remember catching the Kangaskhan from the Safari Zone to complete my Pokedex for the first time ages ago. I think that might have been on Pokemon Blue, actually. But for his birthday, I'm getting him a Switch and the Pokemon Eevee game, which is only a tiny bit more than the amount of money I was planning on giving him, so it's fantastic. So I'm not going to start the Pokemon Yellow game today until he gets his Eevee game, so we can kind of start our games at the same time. And if one of us then plays the game a ton and gets way ahead of the other, then that's fine. But I think once the Eevee and the Switch arrives tomorrow, I'm just going to give it to him straight away on the 27th of March, because what's the point of waiting till the 30th of March when we have a whole weekend and a whole foreseeable future of isolation to get back in to games? So I'm going to be getting back into the Switch and playing Pokemon. I've played a bit of Fortnite lately. Obviously, I play Rocket League a lot more for fun now because there's a new season and stuff, but I mainly play Rocket League for my job, so I don't want to necessarily be doing that all in my free time. So it's going to be great to have an entirely different game just for fun, because there's no way I'm going to tie in, at least that I know of now, the Pokemon gameplay on the Switch to my YouTube channel. Whereas when I play Rocket League in my free time, I'm always thinking, oh, could I save that replay for a video? Have I just got an item for a video? Even if I play Fortnite, can I make a video here? Whereas, you know, Pokemon on a separate console where I don't even have to be sat here at my setup to play is going to be fantastic. So let me know what games you guys are playing down in the comments, because games at this time are great. The video game companies love it. So let's see, scroll down. Watch movie series in order. And then there's an ad for Disney Plus. It's almost like this article is trying to drive affiliate sales. I haven't yet bought Disney Plus, but I might, just because I remember back in the day, I haven't watched a lot of The Simpsons, but as light relief, I always enjoyed having The Simpsons on in the background. I watched a few episodes around my friend's house. I watched, I think, the entire library of Family Guy up until like season 17 in the last year from a DVD box set, and I really like that. I know they have similar sorts of humor, so I might, if I get bored, maybe, I don't know if I'm going to do it, if I'm going to take the plunge and get Disney Plus. Obviously there's other Disney products, movies and stuff like that. I don't know if I'm going to do that, but the idea of The Simpsons and watching a series really did interest me, because I'm not watching a lot of Netflix at the moment. I'm currently in the process of rewatching for I think the third, maybe fourth time, Fresh Meat. I love the series Fresh Meat, and I think it also gives me a taste of the uni life that I'll never get, because I decided not to go to university, and I like that side of it. Sometimes I watch Impractical Jokers on Netflix just for a bit of light relief, and occasionally with dinner I've been watching the last few episodes of The Big Bang Theory. I watched that from the start to the finish in the last year or so as well. Start a Zoom chat with friends. I'm guessing this is chatting, with friends and stuff like that over FaceTime and that. I don't actually do that a lot, to be honest, because I don't really have... I have a core group of friends that I do speak to, mostly through those who I play video games with. A couple of them I'd go out and play basketball with quite a lot, and then a couple of them recently I started going to the gym with them a couple of times. I really enjoyed that. So once the gyms are back open, I'm really excited to start going back to the gym, not only by myself, because primarily I do go by myself, but also with my friends. But I think we all just accept that we kind of have our own lives going on. We're not the type of friends that are just going to sit in a FaceTime call for the sake of it, because that doesn't serve us like it would some friends. I know some friends, they love talking to each other. They really want to be able to talk to each other, so a FaceTime is really good for that. My friends and I aren't like that. We could go months, and have gone months, without seeing each other, and it's just perfectly normal when we get back to it. So if we play video games together, we'll definitely chat there, but I'm not sure about, FaceTiming for the sake of it. The next one, read one of 100 top ebooks. There's actually not an advert affiliated with this one, so go on there. I actually have picked up reading. There's obviously I've been very into fitness lately and everything like that, and there was a book I think is it James Smith who wrote it? He's a personal trainer. I actually saw him in an interview on This Morning, and then one time when I went to Tesco, I saw his book on the shelf called Not a Diet Book, and it's essentially like everything you need to know about fat loss, nutrition, mindset, all these things, dispelling certain myths and things like that. And whilst I was in Tesco the first time, I opened it, I looked at the contents, I decided to read the chapter on the calorie deficit, just because that's something I know quite a lot about. I wanted to see his take on it and stuff like that. And I read it and then put it back on the shelf. And then once this quarantine, the prospect of this started happening, I thought, when I go back to Tesco, I'm actually going to buy this book for myself. So I bought the book, and now I think I'm about 200 pages in, and it's about 280 pages long, so I'm almost done there. And that's something, sometimes I'll pick it up and read it for 10 minutes, but a couple of times I've picked it up and read it for about an hour, and I really enjoy reading it. It's non-fiction. There's a lot of stuff in there that I do know, because I've really been educating myself on this sort of thing over the last year, really, mostly 6 months, but there's quite a lot in there that I do know, but then there's some other stuff that I didn't, and there's certain things in there that allow me to change my perspective on certain things and the way I view things and the way I react to certain situations. And I do think reading, it's a different kind of pleasure to sitting on your phone and watching videos. And obviously the weather's been so great lately. Where my room where I sleep is, the sun, it's in a sun trap, so the sun gets in from like early afternoon or like late morning to the end of the day. The sun comes in that room, so without the wind chill in the room, it gets quite hot in there. So one thing I really like doing is having the blind up slightly, having the window open with a fresh breeze, but the sun coming in, and just laying there and reading a book. It's so relaxing, and I'm learning at the same time. So I have actually been reading. The next step is discover a new podcast. I've got my favorites. I've got The Basement Yard from Joe Santagato and Danilo Priori. That's the only podcast I actively listen to, although Stampy Longhead and I Ballistic Squid actually uploaded for the first one in nearly 3 years, the Magic Animal Club podcast. I just saw it on my subscriptions, and I watched everyone before that, so I'm about an hour into that, and I've got 20 minutes left to go. I was listening to that this morning. But yeah, The Basement Yard is great. I'm a subscriber, I guess you could say, to their Patreon, so I get access to exclusive content, and that also means all of the Patreon exclusives from like ages ago. So I'm still working my way through all of their old Patreon exclusive content. I listen to that while I'm going out for runs as well, and I'm almost at the end of all the Patreon exclusive content they have to offer. But if you haven't seen The Basement Yard, you can go and watch it for free on YouTube, and definitely go and check it out. It's very, very funny. The next step, clean your gadgets physically and digitally. Obviously, cleaning things physically, it makes sense to keep things cleaned. I probably could go for dusting my setup and cleaning my phone more than I do, but I don't know. I've definitely been very on top of my hand washing lately. I think it's just droned into us so often. Everyone can't help but just think twice and wash their hands more often than you perhaps normally would. And I haven't done really a phone declutter. Maybe I could go through my gallery and just clean out screenshots of like old things, or maybe just look at my apps and think, do I actually use that, and get rid of that? But that's something you guys could do, a little digital cleanse. And that does it for the article. So there we go. I find it funny that there was no mention of exercise. That is very, very interesting. No mention of exercise. But yeah, I've been keeping really up to date with running. Because I really do enjoy running, and I feel great for it. The first couple of days I did long runs. I ran 7 miles on the Sunday, 12 miles on the Monday, and then 6 miles on the Tuesday, and my legs were quite sore after that. The Tuesday I also did some gardening. That's another thing. If you've got a garden, or if you've got some chores that your parents would really appreciate you doing, if you live with your parents or if you live alone, if you've got gardening to do and you've got a garden, it's the perfect time for it. There is no better time to do gardening. The weather's perfect. You're not supposed to leave. You've got all the time in the world. There's no better time to actually go out and enjoy doing gardening. And I actually really enjoyed it. I love seeing a project come together. We have a huge garden out there. So my brother and I have been working on that for the last couple of days. I think I'll do some finishing touches this afternoon, because it's currently about midday. And I've got a lot of work done. I do want to do a home workout. I'll do that this evening, and I will go for a run this afternoon. Maybe I'll tie in the gardening in the middle somewhere. But yeah, I'm actually now that we've been in isolation, or we've been somewhat isolated for nearly a week. Really, like I've limited my outgoings. The last time I went to the gym was last Friday. So from Saturday onwards, I've limited my going out, because I think that's when the social distancing really came in. So it's been like a week, and it's taken this week for me to really start to get used to it. and to feel better within and about myself. And I think it's really come across. I was very, very positive and hyperactive in my videos today that I made for the channel, and I had a really good time. I was really positive. Even in the Rocket League gameplay video, I won the first 2 games. I was positive. I lost the third one. I was still very, very positive. And I think it's come across in this podcast as well. I don't know if I'm getting better at making podcasts, better at pacing myself, but we're 25 minutes in and my throat feels fine. I know when I recorded the YouTube story podcast, which was nearly an hour, I had quite a lot of trouble with my throat. It felt a bit sore, so I'm going to have another drink of water for that. Because, yeah, as I said, if there's anything you don't want at this time, it's a sore throat. Because when I usually get ill, I don't get ill anymore. The last time I got ill was back in September when I was obese. I haven't been ill since. It's crazy how as soon as I started losing weight, I haven't been ill. My immune system's just absolutely rocking, and I love it. That's not to say I'm impervious and invincible. I'm not taking that stance on things like some people are as far as this virus things goes. I'm taking precautions. But whenever I got ill, it would start off with a sore throat. I think not helped by the fact that my work is so vocally driven. My throat can take quite a beating on some days. I've recorded 2 videos already and this podcast, and my throat feels all right. And then after the throat for a few days comes the runny nose, and that's kind of it. That's like my general cold sort of issue. But with the coronavirus, of course, you might start feeling it in your throat, but really it attacks your lungs, and I want to keep all this as free as possible. So I don't see the point in dragging out what's been a really, really enjoyable podcast for me to film. As I said, it's midday now, so this will probably take maybe an hour to render. I'm not sure what time this is going to be up. I'd like it to be up at 5 p.m, but today I'm double uploading with the new Rocket League content, and with everyone at home, I can upload at earlier times. I would never normally upload at 3 p.m. Normally people are at school, Americans are at school, but now no one's at school. I'm uploading at my usual 6 p.m. slot on the Pick a Pixel channel, and at an earlier 3 p.m. upload. Maybe I'll upload this. I want to aim for 5 p.m, but it all depends on if I can get this edited and rendered and uploaded in time in conjunction with my other projects. But yes, that is going to do it for the 4th episode of this podcast. I had a load of fun doing it. I also want to do a video on this channel before I go anywhere. I saw a YouTube thumbnail of someone sorting out Skittles, being colorblind, and I thought I could do that. And then I thought my twin and I could do that because we're both colorblind. We could sort out Skittles just for a fun little video. I was thinking I could do that for a TikTok. I don't really make TikToks. I've made 3, and the last one I made was in January, but maybe I'll get back on that with this new quarantine situation. But another reason why I was inspired to do that is because when I went into the garage to get the gardening equipment out, I actually found in amongst all of my stuff for moving from my last apartment. I think I'll save discussions about my upcoming move to a house that I do have the keys for the next podcast. Maybe I'll write that down. But I found my colorblindness glasses, which don't fix my vision perfectly, but when I did the test, I went from moderate colorblindness to only mild, so it did improve it a little bit. And when I put them on, obviously with the weather lately, everything's so vibrant and so beautiful, and it just got me thinking about colorblindness again. So yeah, I might do that. I might do a video like that on this channel. But as always, leave a like if you enjoyed, drop a friendly comment down below. I'll be reading them all, of course. I'd love to interact with you, and I hope you're staying safe through this quarantine. Again, there's no schedule when I do this. It's just when I get the opportunity to. Hopefully in the next couple of days, I'll be back for another podcast. But until then, I will see you very soon.